Hello, Alistair.
Niall,
How you doing?
very well, thank you. Thank you. What a day of days, isn't it? I mean, and you're so good that you're the guest on the program today. Couldn't have
I've
timed
lucked
it
it.
better, could we?
I've literally lucked it. I mean, uh, if you'd said a few weeks ago that this was happening on the day, I wouldn't believe you. I literally wouldn't have believed you. There's no way. I mean, uh, just to think this is all happening in real time today, it's just astounding. I'm sure you agree. It's just, I mean, did you ever think you would see these images?
I
SNP HQ getting raided, Sturgeon's garden getting dug up. Did you ever think it would come to that?
it's beyond belief, is what it absolutely is, and it's probably just it's maybe life working out as it should, the complete madness of these years, and now it's payback time. We'll just have to see. But before we get into talking about that now, would you just like to introduce yourself to the viewing public, those who may not perhaps be aware of the work that you've done recently in the past?
So I'm just generally a member of the public who was sort of politically activated during the lockdown, and I joined the pro-union party All for Unity during the 2020 election cycle, or 2021, sorry, where similar to Alba's situation, where we're trying to maximise the pro-union majority in Holyrood by encouraging people to vote for your pro-union parties in the constituency, and then all for unity on the list to take advantage of the electoral system up here, which is quite convoluted. Similar to Alba's tactics, where they were saying vote SNP and then Alba on the list. Obviously, SNP just want maximum SNP members, so they even poo-pooed that tactic, which is ridiculous. But I got involved in politics through Hamza Yusuf specifically with his hate crime bill. I thought it was so malicious, so vindictive, to set upon the public that somebody had to stand up and really combat what is what's being taught in our schools, and just the way we're being governed is so horrendous, um, and obviously it's resulted in what's happened today.
Mm.
Um, this is the culmination of years of strife, years of maliciousness. Um, um, so, I mean, generally, to sum up, I'm just a member of the public who's politically activated, and now I'm hoping to activate more people.
Absolutely, and it's so good that you're in a situation where you can be politically active, because there's a lot of members of the public who are concerned, but very few, because of their particular situation in life, are able to take that forward in a political way. So people like yourself, at the end of the day, there's very few people who will actually put themselves forward, especially on matters which are controversial, and especially on matters where they're going to potentially be attacked by the powers that be. And you mentioned Hamza Yusuf there. You're absolutely right about his hate speech law, which he did bring out and which he engineered through the Scottish Parliament, which was an absolutely a terrible infringement of freedom of speech. And that's still with us, of course. That's still sitting there, ready to clamp down on anybody that he doesn't like. But what do you see? Like, don't you think, as I do, it's almost like the chicken's coming home to roost? You couldn't think of anybody being given a poisoned chalice in the way that Yusuf has been given it, and suddenly this chalice has like burst the poison all over his hands. I mean, where do you think he's? How do you think this is
I
going to
think
play out
it's.
for him?
I wouldn't call it a poison chalice. It was like a poison Hindenburg full of, a Hindenburg level balloon full of poison, that's then burst into flames, and now Hamza's trying to escape the fiery wreckage, along with the rest of the SNP members. I mean, I've said for um, weeks now that the SNP is a dead party. They're dead. They're electorally null and void at this point. And I think today just cemented that. I mean, people are going to be waking up tomorrow to all the newspapers, blanket across Britain, Peter Murrell, husband of Nicola Sturgeon, arrested. And all the images of the tent in the garden, them digging up the garden, that's going to put even the most ardent SNP voters off. And I mean, they're totally gone now. And I think we are seeing the real-time demise of a once huge party, a once huge mechanism. They've turned this, one of their biggest follies was turning this independence debate into an industry. That's what they've done. They've turned the indie debate into a perpetual carrot, or we know it's not a carrot, but it's to their votership. It is a carrot to them, is this independence. They've pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and yet it's become an industry for them, and they want to keep the industry rolling on. That's why they haven't acted on any of this stuff. I think after the 2014 referendum and the resounding defeat, if they just said, right, okay, we're just going to try to govern correctly, but they doubled down. They doubled down, and they got even more vicious in their attacks. And it's morphed. I mean, I'm just trying to wait for Nicola Sturgeon or Peter Murrell to blame Westminster for the arrest this morning. You know what I mean? That's coming later on the line.
Yes. And you see, this has to go right through the party. The alleged problems with the finances. Yes. I mean, that impacts every local treasurer of every SNP branch. It impacts every MSP who's been involved with any of the funding at all for their constituencies. Everybody is intertwined in this spider's web. So it's not just one man that's going to, if there is a fall to be taken, it's not just one man, it's the whole apparatus,
it's the whole
mechanism. You know, and that's the most remarkable thing about this. And I'm so happy that it was the money that's got them in trouble was the money that they purposely raised to try to destroy the UK. Okay,
and that's it. Sort of typifies the whole thing. It typifies the SNP as a whole. Is that they would rather sort of piss away the money that their own supporters have given them for a specific cause that they supposedly believe in. They'd rather piss that away up the wall than actually act upon it and use the money in a sort of constructive way, or at least in constructive towards their voters, or in the eyes of their voters. So it really does sort of sum up the SNP in their ways. You know, they'd rather take their own supporters for a ride.
Yes.
And it really is abominable. And I think this is why we're seeing the end of the SNP. We're watching it in real time. I've said for the last 2 weeks that they're dead. And now I think they are really, really dead. They're already 6 feet under, Alistair. Already.
Yeah. We're entering, well, next year, probably towards the end of the year, I would imagine, is going to be the general election. And this is still going to be getting played out. I mean, it depends if the procurator does decide to take it to court, then it's, well, when are they going to do that? But it's going to last for most of next year. And so you could actually be looking at them going into a general election. And it may be that the Tories will decide to call the general election even earlier just because of this, I don't know. But you could see them going into a general election while they've got several key members going through the legal system in a very embarrassing way.
It's incredible.
I can't think of anything like it in British history, really.
No, I think I was writing a wee bit today. I mean, this is bigger news than Trump getting arrested. This is the biggest news in the world as far as I'm concerned. I think people are sort of, again, we want to preface this by saying Murrell is, just like any of us, innocent until proven guilty. And then, you know, a philosopher once said that we should defend the law as we were to defend the city gates. So I'm right behind innocence until proven guilty. But I mean, the damage is done with the images. It really has. I mean, who is going to look at the images of the Police Scotland digging up Sturgeon's garden and think, I'm still going to vote for them? It's just inconceivable at this point. It really is.
Yes.
And when you say Hamza Yusuf is he had one of the best quotes ever this morning. When he was asked about the Murrell's arrest, he says, and I'm quoting him here, it's not great. Not great for trust in the SNP. I think that's the understatement of the century. It really is. I mean, it's catastrophic for the SNP and their credibility. It's catastrophic for their trustworthiness. And as the self-styled continuity candidate, he said publicly that Murrell's a proven winner and he wanted his backing. I mean, who wouldn't he want Murrell in his corner, he says? Well, I think Humza's resignation will be forthcoming in mere weeks or a week or so into his tenure. It's just outrageous things. You couldn't imagine this happening.
Yeah. It's not great for the SNP in the same way that the Titanic sinking was not great for its journey to New York. It's like that. But you say Humza resigning. I'm not sure I even want Humza to resign, because that's just too much stress almost. Because who are they going to then get in? It will be Kate Forbes, but she's not going to want to take it, right? She's not going to want to take that job. There will be nobody. This is the thing, that if he resigns, there's going to be nobody who's going to step up at this time. So he's stuck there, and it's going to be another of his classic fails, and it's going to be one that he can't really get out of for a long time. Yeah.
Well,
you say you could be right. Maybe he will resign and just say, forget it, and I'm leaving, and I'm going to get a job in normal society. But then, what kind of job could Humza get? I mean, seriously.
You're correct in saying that. I don't think he's going to find much employment after this. But in himself, I think he'd be very reticent to relinquish power. I don't think he's going to give it up lightly. And you're correct in saying that this new position of First Minister, if theoretically was to resign, nobody wants that job, especially not as the SNP leader. Nobody wants that job. I mean, this whole thing, where's Mike Russell in this situation? The new CEO of the SNP, where's he in this situation? I was looking at his tweets today, and I think he's pretty silent. They've all went radio silent. And this is the thing, across the board, we're witnessing the death of a political party here. And it's coming fast, it's coming thick. And I think this is probably just the beginning, as we can all sort of speculate as to what's going on. But the fact that they're digging up the garden is just really strange. And it's not something you'd expect from a normal probe, not someone at all. When I got woken out of my bed this morning, phoned up, like, this is going down, and I get sent the pictures, and we're all wondering, why is there an incident? Why is there an incident tent? Why is there forensic gear? Why is there all this stuff there? This is the question that we need answered. But I'm sure we need to allow the police to do their work. And never once have I been more happy to see a Police Scotland van. I'll tell you that. I've never once been happier to see one. And full credit to the officers involved in this. I mean, there must have been 15 or 20 people raiding the SNP HQ the day, taking out boxes upon boxes of evidence. So I think we're witnessing the end. End.
Yeah, that was a remarkable thing. I saw a small video. Well, there'll be more videos that will appear in time of them coming down and out of the SNP HQ carrying these evidence boxes. And I don't know how full they were or the entire story behind that, but they were definitely taking out some boxes, some of which did have contents in them. And I thought, that's from a political party that's running this country. They've raided the HQ of that. That's like the weirdest thing. I've never seen that. And I mean, when you think about it, it kind of makes you angry as well that the Scottish media, that this has come as such a surprise to us, because for so long the Scottish media, by which I mean the mainstream media, they must have turned some kind of blind eye to all of this during the Sturgeon years, because there was hints of it, but they didn't go after it in a way that they could have. So they were obviously, they felt themselves restrained in some way, or they didn't want to upset the great leader.
There might be a certain level of that public sentiment is totally turned on the SNP, totally turned, and you would have felt the tide turning on the SNP over the last few years. But now it's turned in such a degree that even the police are saying absolutely not. We're not putting up with this a second longer. The media class in Scotland, I think you're right, have turned a blind eye to this. But again, it's not as if they're turning a blind eye. I'll just stick up for the media at the moment, but the reason that the SNP have become scandal-proof, I call them scandal-proof, because once a scandal breaks on the ferries, there's another scandal the next day. And then by the time you get to the next scandal, there's another one the next day. So that because there's so many scandals, they become scandal-proof. It's literally one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I mean, if you go on for hours about the amount of scandals and missing money and all these things that happen within the SNP, all the wasted funds, but none of it gets addressed. None of it gets solved because there's always something the next day. Always.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's something interesting that Paul says. Remember that during the last war, in fact, the MI5 raided the SNP offices. I didn't know about that. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I was in a Twitter space earlier on, and there's, I mean, a lot of nationalists in the space, and they were saying, well, this is the end of the SNP. They're going into most of their votership, if they're nationalists to the core, will end up flitting to Alba and to ISP and these other smaller sort of independence parties, and it will dilute the cause. I think once and the MI5 thing, a lot of people were saying, well, especially ardent nationalists saying, well, this is because MI5 have infiltrated the SNP over the last X amount of years, and this is so really they're become fringe conspiracy theorists and saying things like this. Whereas I think the likelier case is that the SNP party as a whole has become too comfortable, too reliant on the large wages, too comfortable eating big lunches at Holyrood and doing nothing and sitting on their hands and watching the country just disintegrate into or watching Scotland just fall away. I mean, the life expectancies on the bin, our drug deaths are at an all-time high, higher than anywhere else in Europe. Alcohol deaths, everything is off the charts bad in Scotland, and yet nothing gets done.
Yeah. Well, they don't
and
have.
It's not because they want to fix anything.
And even if they wanted to, they don't have the mentality that's necessary to fix things like some of the terrible drug deaths and stuff like that. I mean, if you want to sort that, it often requires a pretty hard approach regarding various social things that they have to do, including police action and so on. And the woke SNP doesn't have the mentality to sort out problems like these deep-rooted problems that exist in society. They're, they don't have. They're too liberal-minded on certain of those very, very serious life and death issues, and so
yeah, I think they do lack the courage. I mean, the video that you introduced me with. I mean, that took. I mean, the amount of people that told me, don't do that. Don't burn the book, Niall. You're going to ruin your career before you've even kicked a ball. And I'm saying it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Somebody needs to say it. And somebody needs to sort of be the tip of the spear in this. And we all know, because I don't know, I say we've all got a set of eyes because I know a few blind people, but we all know the difference between men and women. And this is the most blatant lie that we've been told here in Scotland and told across sort of Britain as a whole, is that men and women can just change and just change over. Sex is immaterial, doesn't matter, and that we can just flip between. And I just simply won't accept that a man can be a woman because he's holding a bit of paper. I just won't accept it, and the public in Scotland won't accept it either. So this is. It's the culmination of all these lies that has led to this. The police didn't want to be sending. They didn't see the reputational damage it's done to the police by sending people like Isla Bryson to a female jail. It totally ruins the reputation of the police, the prison service. I mean, the whole judicial system is under threat by these weird and wonderful policies that the SNP and the Greens keep throwing at us. And again, it's against public sentiment. I mean, public sentiment can just, as far as Humza believes, it can just be put in the bin. They can lead or move public sentiment, like wherever they want. And it's not fair on the general public to be led in such a manner down a dark path that nobody wants to be going. Nobody wants to go down this path.
Yeah. Well, do you know, if you're right, and I do hope that you're right in the long term, that this is the end of the SNP, then it will create a new window for different ideas that hitherto have been blocked by these people. And it may well be that the common sense views that you were articulating in that video by which we introduced you, may be that they'll be able to get in there again and be heard and be accepted, and people will be able to see others giving voice to it. Because what can sometimes happen is when everybody in a particular field, like inside Holyrood, is really all of one mind, then that attitude becomes society's attitude. But once the governing class have a different attitude, then their attitude becomes society's attitude. So if we can change that governing class sufficiently as a consequence of this fall of the SNP, then we may find these ideas can get back in there, can get heard again. And so it could be, and that's what we need to be working on, is creating those opportunities for these ideas.
You're spot on. I think this is a golden opportunity. With the demise of the SNP, imagine how much votership that they used to command. That's all up for grabs. I've said, because the SNP are dead, I've said, a couple images that, the vultures are circling above. Anis Sarwar and Douglas Ross are waiting to pick apart the SNP votership. But this is really a time for a full reset of the sort of political system that we've got now. And I think people should really abandon the established parties. Why is Douglas Ross not standing up and saying the things that I am? When we're all thinking it, why has nobody in that parliament got the courage to stand up and say what they think? I think we've got politicians in that parliament that rather run a focus group and see what they think than say what they in themselves think. I think we need to get away from groupthink and more to individual sort of think, where this is how I feel as a person, rather than this is what this focus group's saying. People really need to start standing up for themselves.
Yeah, I think so. Just while you're saying that, this article which I read this week, the SNP might be in trouble, but unionism is still at risk of dying out. And that's by Tim Stanley. And he does make a good point, and he makes a couple of phrases here. He says, Nicola Sturgeon has won 8 out of 8 elections by shifting Scotland's imagination in her favour. And I quite like that concept. And he points out that unionism has to shift Scotland's imagination in our favour.
Yes.
And we can do that. People
Absolutely.
like yourself, people like A Force for Good. And it's ultimately a battle for the mind, and the mind is the mind and imagination.
Yes.
And romantic ideas. He talks about romantic unionism, and we have to keep promoting that as an alternative. And this is our chance.
The established parties don't want to think outside the box. You're right. There needs to be a new sort of creativity for Scotland going into the future. And, I think using our devolved powers that we've already got, we should be leading in, I think in the future we're going to have a massive problem with the transgender conveyor belt, creating people that are troubled, and they're going to be on the medical system for a long, long time. So why doesn't Scotland have a leading sort of medical thing to combat this? We need to be thinking into the future. We need to be using our devolved powers in order to sort of lead the rest of the UK as well in terms of policy, and say, well, this is what the Scots think. The Scots are doing things a bit differently, and maybe we should lead the rest of the United Kingdom out of the shadows as well. And Scotland does have a part in play in that.
Yeah,
as a bigger part of the union. There's no point breaking away our bonds. I think it's disgusting to think that we're going to leave our English brothers and sisters, Welsh brothers and sisters, Northern Ireland brothers and sisters, just leave them behind. I think it's absolutely abominable to think that. Well, we should be dragging them out the mud as well. But first we need to drag ourselves at the mud mentally.
yes, I'll absolutely. You're so right in pointing that out. Because it's not like we're saying, oh yeah, we just all want to go back with what Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer want. Because you look at some of the stuff that Keir Starmer's talking about that he's going to do if he gets elected, and as far as the transgender issue, it's just as bad, if not worse, than what Sturgeon was wanting. So we've got to be careful that we don't give the impression that we're happy with what, for example, the Labour Party have got cooked up for us. Whether it's Anas Sarwar or whether it's Keir Starmer throughout the UK, because they're the, as you used the word, which I really like, diabolical, some diabolical policies that
really
they've got lined up for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They would never put their own kids through this sort of thing.
No.
Never. But then why would they sort of impose it upon the rest of British kids? It's just really it's a disturbing situation in such a degree.
Yes, absolutely. Well, what we can do is we can speak out about it, and you've been a very positive voice on that, and I know that you spoke out on it when there was a campaign outside Holyrood as well back in January, organised by Glasgow Cabby. I know that you are one of the speakers, and in fact, you can probably mark the beginning of Sturgeon's downfall from that event, and also the Let Women Speak event in George Square. And so you can really pat yourself on the back today, Niall, because a lot of this is work that you and others have been doing, and it's not at its culmination yet, but it's certainly the beginning of it. So
I do have one question for you though before we cut off. Is where can I get one of these wee badges that you've got? Because I seen one last week and they were absolutely phenomenal. The wee Force for Good love hat, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So what's the shop on that?
Great. That's let's put up the shop link. It's a forceforgood.uk hyphen shop one. That's it there, and people. It's one of our best sellers, actually. Thanks for mentioning it.
No worries. It really is beautiful. I seen it last week.
It's great. And what we've also got, if you buy one of those, we'll send you free of charge as well our latest issue of Union of the Crowns, and we'll also write a wee card for you, which is this classic painting that we turned into a greetings card of Neptune and Britannia riding the waves. Can't get better than that. Well, we've been putting up your links where people can get you, which is at twitter.com/Niall Fraser 8. That's NIALLFRASER 8. And you're also on Substack there, which is where you post your articles at niallfraser8.substack.com. Please, folks, check that out for some great Scottish wisdom. And I think your career's just beginning, Niall. You need to get into Parliament, and maybe you'll be the First Minister one day.
Maybe one day.
Absolutely.
I think it
could be sooner rather than later, the way things are going. I mean,
the way things are going, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me...
We don't be left wanting the job.
That's right, that's right. You'll be in there next year, probably, the way things are going. Well, look, it's been great talking to you. It's been the top of the hour. Folks on YouTube, please do give us a subscribe. Any new viewers tonight? We've had a good show. We're up to 180 viewers there on YouTube, which was great. Please do subscribe and like our channel, because we've been going for 12 years or thereabout on YouTube, and we're nowhere near where we should be, even though we post every day on it. Anyway, that's just a system for you, but we'll fight back. Niall, we must have you on again. Thank you very much for everything. We'll say goodbye, and we hope to see you again soon. All the
Brilliant.
best to
Thanks for
you.
all the viewers and thanks for all the great comments and thank you to yourself for having me on. Have a great night.
Absolutely. Have a great one. Bye now.